The Aussie Millions is one of the most prestigious poker tournaments in the world. It is held at Crown Melbourne, the home of poker in Australia. 648 players began and only 5 remain. The first prize, the LK Boutique bracelet, the title, and a huge $1.6 million. Who will be crowned champion in 2015 of the Aussie Millions main event?
Welcome to the 2015 Aussie Millions. I'm down on the bank of the Yarra, and as you can see, there's plenty of people outside enjoying the sunshine. But I got to say, all the action is inside Crown Melbourne, with the main event final table now down to 5. These players are battling it out for the $1.6 million first prize and the LK Boutique Championship bracelet. Let's head back to John Paul to take a look at all the action.
Thank you, Jamie. Doing a wonderful job there. Here we are. 5 players remain at the 2015 Aussie Millions main event at Crown Melbourne. There is the leaderboard. Lennart Uphoff from Germany with a commanding lead. Joe, 9.5 million in chips. I sit next to the world champion from 2005, Joe Hasham, hometown. There are the seating arrangements for today. Joe, when you've got a chip lead that big, I mean, is it inevitable? How's he feeling right now?
6 million chip lead is enormous, 5-handed. You just be pummeling every other player. You're the only person at the table that can't go broke in one hand. So you want to put everyone else under pressure because everyone else is going to be playing for their tournament life. I'd be raising almost every hand. And
he does just that. He begins our session with a raise. There is Manny Stavropoulos from Melbourne, up off raising with 7-8 of hearts. Round to Stavropoulos, who folds. James Rahn from England began this final table as the big stack. He folds, as does Brian Rast. Round to Joel Douaglan from France, who is one of our more animated players that we've seen for some time, Joe.
It's not a good sign, mate. He's lost his scarf. I'm worried about him right now. Like, put that scarf back on, son.
Well, he looks interested. Doesn't strike me as the kind of player with a lot of fear. Would you agree, Joe?
Absolutely. He doesn't like to fold either. Likes to play pots. Although he's got to be careful. He's out of position.
He puts the sunnies down and...
Oh, here comes the scarf. Here we go.
I want to dress up. Resting? Do you mind if I call you resting? Is that all right?
No, I don't mind. Yeah, I got 2.2.
Sure, you've been called that before.
Call.
And he makes a very colourful call. There is the big stack of Lennart Uphoff.
Well, he's got a nice hand. Ace-8 of clubs. Very good defending hand.
Well, he's in a dominant position so far. The flop, a 5, a deuce and a 3. Rainbow flop. Action on the Frenchman.
Didn't see it.
Did you see what happened?
2-4-5, I think I might have heard in the back.
Sorry, what?
No pre-flops.
And he checks just when you think he's going to bet.
He loves to give off these false tells.
What was that last hand? He's raised every hand.
The German almost a polar opposite of the Frenchman, really.
He's
Stoic, doesn't move.
Absolute statue.
He quickly puts 200,000 out. Asks the question of the Frenchman.
I wonder how much live experience Douaglan actually has. Doesn't look like much to me.
Our research says that Douaglan has a lot less live experience than any other player at this table.
And it shows. He's not very comfortable at all.
Well, he calls the turn a 9 of diamonds. Doesn't really change anything. Action is on the Frenchman. He's been very unpredictable. Really taking his time now. He checks his option over to the German, who quickly bets 400,000, 450.
I know my friends in New Caledonia, what they think when they watch that. They think, don't play against him, Joel. Don't play against him. That's what they're telling me. I can hear them from Nouméa. They tell me, don't play against him.
Extraordinary character, isn't he?
Sounds like he's
Don't play
torn.
against him.
Like you listen to him.
Well, animated is too light a word. Dwaglen folds. He's almost disgusted with himself.
I hear you, guys. I hear you. Don't play against him. He's so good.
Do it.
So talented.
It's really exciting if there's one player at the table and you just keep winning every hand versus him and you're like in his head and he gets, he doesn't know what's going on and he gets confused and is afraid of you, and that's really funny.
Well, Lennart Opov, our big stack at this table, just keeps growing and growing, Joe. His stack is so immense. Now, as a strategy, and you're one of the other players at this table, you know, Brian Rast in shot, very dangerous player. What is your strategy facing a stack like that?
It's not the stack that worries me. It's the fact that he's on a heater. And, you know, if you try and fight a player who's on a rush, you're generally going to get swept up in his rush. In that spot, I like to leave the battle for someone else to fight. Then I can pick my time when I want to battle. You know, and I think that's what Dwaglen was talking about before, is that he knows that the German is on a heater. He knows he's on a rush. Why play with him? But at the same time, he had a legitimate hand. So you can't be too upset about that.
In the meantime, Brian Rast from the United States raises it up to 200,000, finds a call from Manny Stavropoulos with a weak king, and the flop comes 10-9-6. So, well, Manny struck bottom pair. He is ahead of Rast, but it's a pretty interesting board. He checks.
Well, there are no good flops for Brian unless there's a 3 involved in the flop, right? So
it goes check, check. The turn, a repeat 6 now for Manny. His turn trips.
Check.
Does Rast bet here now? So the 9-6-10 hits a lot of Manny's range, his calling range out of the blind. And 2 checks probably indicates to Brian that it's safe for him to bet now. But he doesn't know that, you know, Manny's got king 6 there and he's made trip 6s.
Well, the bet is 230,000 over to Manny now. Calmly sitting there, turning trips. Does he call? Does he raise? And he makes the call, so we'll see a river.
Did you see that look of disappointment in Manny's face when he called?
The river.
Very bad acting, Manny. Very bad.
An 8 of diamonds. Will he check again here, Joe?
Yep.
Check.
He does.
He must check again. And Brian's going to check back. He's not going to fire again. If Manny was on a draw, it got there. If Manny's ahead of him, he's not going to fold, so. Unless Brian's going to blast this pot.
Well, the
He's
pot
definitely not value
has...
betting. He's definitely bluffing if he's betting here, I'm telling you now. Even he knows he's bluffing. Like, he's not value betting.
So he's now turning his hand into a bluff?
Yeah.
Would you say? He's got just a little bit under $1 million in the pot. And he fires 540,000, and Manny quickly calls. So, well, this time Brian Rast, well, he was almost induced into a bluff.
Nice check by Manny there. This is where knowing your opponent really counts.
And as you can hear, some cheers from the gallery. Manny is in his hometown here in Melbourne. Wouldn't it be wonderful to win one right here? And we'll be back with more action right here at the Aussie Millions.
If you're looking for Australia's most extensive collection of high-end watches, jewellery, luxury gifts and accessories, then LK Boutique is the place to come. LK Boutique Melbourne offers an unparalleled shopping experience on luxury timepieces, accessories and jewellery. All the Aussie Millions jewellery is supplied through LK Boutique, including the 20 championship rings and the crown jewel of Australian poker, the diamond encrusted main event bracelet.
And we are back to the action. There is our leaderboard. 5 players remain here at the Aussie Millions main event in 2015. And Lennart Uphoff, it is all about this German. He has such a commanding lead. And these remaining 4 players behind him, they're really trying to chip away at that stack. But it is so immense, you can see it from miles away.
Well, Manny's doing a great job. He's chipped up to about 3.5 million right now. Unfortunately, Brian Rast is the one who's in danger of elimination with only 1 million in chips.
Well, the action's on Manny. He gets out of the way this time round to James Rahn. Began our final table as our chip leader.
This fellow's been awfully quiet for a long time.
Raises to 250,000.
Makes it 250,000 to go with Queen Jack offsuit. Around to Joel Douaglin from France. And this Frenchman is never boring, Joe. Without question, our favourite at this table in terms of his character. Puts the sunnies on and you just don't know what to expect from him.
I think this is what poker is about, Paul. You know, the characters of the game coming to life. And Douaglin is definitely one of those characters.
What will he do this time? There is definite method to his madness. This time he calls. He's got King Queen offsuit, so he's got Rahn dominated pre-flop. Douaglin with 2.7 million in chips and Rahn with 1.7 million in chips.
The last hand he played against Germany had ace-8 against 7-8. Now he's got king-queen against jack-queen, but it's position that is really important. He's flop-top pair now, so it's pretty hard to lose this pot.
Action is on the Frenchman. Looks like he's reaching for chips, not wasting any time on that board. 350,000. Tickle under half the pot. Over to the Brit now.
Very frustrating for Rand there, sitting there quietly. Haven't played a hand forever. Finally get to raise a hand, and I get it taken away from me on the flop. It can really play with your psyche to the point where it can make you make a really bad decision.
Well, there is the profile for Joel Douaglin from France, originally from New Caledonia. And he is a relative newcomer to the Aussie Millions in terms of his profile. We haven't seen him a lot, but let me tell you, he has made his presence felt here at this final table. I expect a hell of a lot more from him. Action is on the Frenchie.
Oh, no, that's right, yeah. But yeah, too much.
His chip stack's starting to grow again. He's certainly been on a bit of a roller coaster at this final table, but the chips start to look like they're going in the right direction again.
Well, I think by far he's played more hands than anyone else, right? He's raising again. Here you go.
He makes a raise to 400,000 now. The button, the big stack, will get out of the way. Douaglin with ace-10 offsuit, round to Manny Stavropoulos, who's picked his spots really well. He folds this time, round to the Brit. And he announces all in.
James Rahn moves all in.
And he has ace-king offsuit, so he has the Frenchman dominated. And now the decision is back on the Frenchman.
Ace-king's a very nice all-in hand.
The amount? 1.75 million.
755,000.
So
1,700,000. Yeah, put 4.
the Frenchman doing the math and the Englishman just remaining still.
The math should tell him to fold.
Well, he taps the table and says, "Well played, sir." But he doesn't look very happy about it. Gives him a little bit of a glare across the table. But James Rahn from England picks up a very needed pot.
I mean, there's always going to be a time in the tournament when the odds are really going to be stacked against you. But you just need to sort of like ride out those moments and you will eventually get a card rush. Yeah, you've just got to be patient. I've been playing poker for about 6 years. It was just started off with home games, and then a good friend of mine started having quite a bit of success. And when you see one of your friends doing well, sort of winning at the game, sort of helps spur you on to try and improve yourself.
Now, we hear the word timing being thrown around when speaking about poker. Joe, can you explain to us what this means?
Jamie, timing is a very important concept in poker. There's two ways to look at timing, okay? There's first of all the timing of getting good hands against bad hands. For example, you pick up aces, someone else picks up kings, you win a big pot. The other side of that is you pick up aces, everybody folds, you don't win any chips at all, right? There's also what we call timing tells. How long does it take someone to act? Human nature, we always act strong when we're weak and weak when we're strong, unless you're professional and you control that. And even still then that leaks through sometimes. For example, people who are bluffing generally will act really fast and very aggressively so that their timing is very fast. And you kind of pick up on that and you go, if he really or she really had a great hand here, wouldn't she want to consider her options a little bit more and see how she could extract the maximum from me? No, I think she's bluffing, I call, right? Or then someone else might tank for a long time and think about their action. That usually means they're trying to work out what is the best play. They've got a good hand and they want to work out what's the best way to maximise their hand.
Well, thanks so much, Joe, for showing the importance of timing. Now back to the final table.
And back to the action. 5 players remain. The German is seemingly unstoppable at this stage with almost a 3-1 chip lead over every other player at this table, and probably the most feared player, Brian Rast, is our short stack at this final table. Title's still up for grabs. A lot of poker to be played, Joe. We've got a Frenchman who's very colourful, a German who's running over the table, an American who's sitting quietly, and there you've got Manny, the hometown hero, still sitting, and he's quietly moving in the right direction. So hard to predict.
I told you, Manny's known as the dark horse. He just sits there quietly, gets the job done. But if I was anyone else at that table, I'd be so happy that Brian was the shortest stack at the table. Because if he had chips at the moment, he'd be a huge danger. He still is, even with a short stack. He needs one double up and he'll have everyone under pressure.
The German raises with Queen 10 offsuit. Folds around to, well, by far the most experienced player at this final table, with around 7 million or 7.7 million in tournament winnings. Brian Rast has averaged 1.5 million in earnings every year since 2010 and announces all in. So Brian Rast in good shape with ace king offsuit and Lennart up off with queen 10 offsuit. Joe, is this, could you consider a call here?
You could consider a call with queen 10 up off, thinking maybe I've got 2 live cards here against Brian's range of hands, or 2 overcards. But the math definitely says that your best bet is to fold because you're not getting the right odds. He's definitely not priced in to call here.
And the German folds. So Brian Rast collecting some much needed chips. He is the short stack at this table, but his chip stack is heading in the right direction.
There are some people that perform better under pressure and some people that don't. You know, I've always been a person that I think has done well under pressure. I've played cash games where I've had $1 million in front of me. So, you know, like, sure, I want to win, but, you know, some of these guys, it'll be like super life-changing money, like, you know, 10x their bankroll or something. Whereas, you know, it's not going to be like that for me. So I'm just going to go in and try to focus on making the best decision. And, you know, this is an opportunity to compete mentally with people. You know, I like basketball as a kid, but physically, you know, I'm 6'1", I can't jump. So there's just no way I was going to go in the NBA and compete, right? But you know, I can sit down and hopefully think with the best of them.
Brian Rast sits just outside the top 50 for all-time money earnings and is one of the more feared players in the world. I sit next to the 2005 World Series of Poker main event champion Joe Hasham in his hometown of Melbourne, Australia. And, well, we've talked about strategy and we've talked about that big stack, but this German continues to run over everyone. He seems to get his foot out of trouble as well, knowing when to fold most of the time.
He's playing well. also it's like you can't just get lucky and get to this point. You have to play well as well.
Raising it up with ace-9 of hearts around to the Frenchman, who's certainly got the word defiance in his character, as well as many other words, I could say.
I think this Frenchman is quite a bit of an unknown. Like the other players are looking and saying, look, we know he can be reckless. We know that he plays way too many hands, but he's gambling. Do we want to gamble with him as well?
Well, we're going to see another hand. He's got ace-9 offsuit, so at this stage they're, well, very nearly matched, but anything could happen with this man in the pot. The flop is a 9-4-4 flop, so both players strike top pair. But, we've seen these situations over the years, Joe. It doesn't always chop.
No, definitely not. And the poker gods have got a sick sense of humour. Like this flop could induce the best hand, which is the equally best hand, to fold quite easily.
Frenchman checks over to the German.
Interesting that Dwaglen has ace-9 with the ace of diamonds. If a diamond peels off, he feels very comfortable knowing that he's got the ace of diamonds for a redraw to another diamond.
Well, he has called, and it has happened, just like you said. A turn of a 5 of diamonds now will give the Frenchman a little bit more confidence. He checks his cards. And checks across to the German. Will he fire again? As you can see, no diamond in his hand. The pot now growing to over 1.1 million. Looks like he's going to bet.
I like it. I think it's safe to continue that line. The Frenchman hasn't shown any sign of aggression at this point, so take advantage of having top pair, top kicker.
525,000 now. The pot growing to a little over 1.6 million.
And a good call.
Yes, we go to the river, and the river is a 4 of spades. So if that had peeled a diamond, it would have been rather unlucky for the German. But as it stands, the players will chop the pot if we go to showdown. There is a check from the Frenchman.
Joel checks. Action on Lennart.
It's Uphoff at the moment is thinking, okay, do I have the best hand or do I not have the best hand? Most of the times I'm going to have the best hand. What if Dwaglen has been calling me with a pair of 10s? What if Dwaglen has actually flopped 9s full? Do I extract value or do I check it down? And he looks like he's going to try and extract value here.
2.2 million in the pot.
Maybe Dwaglen's got 10-9,
725,000.
725,000 with his full house. The Frenchman now. Can't imagine he'll fold.
He's not going anywhere.
Both players with the same full house.
Well, it'd be really cool if Dwaglen could find a way to get it all in here.
Well, taking the conservative approach and calling, and both players almost disappointed there.
Yeah. Waste of time. Let's get back to it.
Oh,
he seems frustrated there, doesn't he? Look at him.
Yeah. Very unpredictable. And we'll be back after the break with more from Crown at the Aussie Millions. Welcome to the 2015 Aussie Millions here at Crown Melbourne, the home of poker in Australia. And the vision you are watching right now are the players that have entered and ponied up $25,000 to enter one of the feature events on our calendar. An incredible 104 entries, 30 carried in today too, and a prize pool, $2.496 million to divvy up on our final table. There you see some of the players busting out some big names. Eric Seidel a little bit earlier, Phil Ivey, Patrick Antonius, and of course, Joe Hasham. Vision of our final table here, Pratush Budiga from the United States. He's heavily involved in the action. Stephen Chidwick from the UK. He gets eliminated and he takes home $250,000. Pratush takes home $335,000. There is the ring, heads up. And the final hand between the Australian Alex Trevelyan and Tobias Renkemeyer, who came second in this tournament. And the Australian wins one on home soil. Always good to see an Aussie win on home soil with Jack 8 off suit. So Alex Trevelyan wins a home title at the Aussie Millions. And we are back to the action. 5 players remain before we crown a champion. There is the leaderboard. And the story at the moment is about Lennart Uphoff from Germany. Almost 9 million in chips, a very commanding lead. Brian Rast, the most experienced player at the table, is our short stack, but fighting. And the Frenchman, well, Joël Douaglin, he's kind of been the story so far because he's the most unpredictable at the table. I'm sitting next to the world champ himself, Joe Hashim. So far, we've been entertained, you've got to say.
Absolutely. I love this character, this Frenchy guy. He's very good for the game. He seems like an every man, like an everyday man as well.
There is Brian Rast, one of the more feared players at the table. Around to Joel. Now, he's shown a propensity to be very unpredictable. What will he do here? Is it more difficult when a player is over-animated? I mean, we talk about reads and players not moving. This guy moves the other. He goes the other way.
He's the exact opposite, which is almost too animated, you're right. And it can, make things tricky for you. The one thing I'm not liking about Douaglin at the moment is that he's playing too many pots out of position. We've spoken about position before, and he's not using it to his advantage. He's using the opposite. He's always putting himself in compromising positions.
Well, he's called from the small blind, and he's struck bottom pair, so action is on him. He checks. Over to the German, always methodical, always calculating. Joe, you and I have talked in the past about no betting, no information. It's been a call and a check from the big blind. Now we go check on this flop. The turn is a jack of hearts. Doesn't change anything. There doesn't seem to be any information for either of these players.
Absolutely. They're both playing blindfolded at the moment. Douaglin, limped into the pot, and Uphoff checked his options, so nobody has any information about the other person's hand.
It's check to the river here. Action on the Frenchman.
There's no reason why he should bet here. It would be suicidal. Just check, and if you decide to call, if you can get Uphoff to try and bluff off on the river, and just call him down if you think your bottom pair is good. But the board now is kind of quite dangerous. There's a flush, there's a straight, there's multiple combinations of hands out there. The only upside is that there's actually no money in the pot at the moment. So if he does bluff you, good luck to him. He won 2 big blinds. He won 2 big blinds. It's not a big deal.
Well, it looks like Uphoff, and he's got the chips to do it. He's going to take a stab at this. 340 in the middle. He bets 150,000, and look at this, the Frenchman.
Yeah, I would be inclined to be calling here. There's been no indication that he's had any kind of hand up until this stage. Unless he's got some random 10 in his hand that he's made a straight or a 6.
You can almost see the do I, don't I, but it ends up being do I, so...
Queen high.
What do you know? Okay, he says.
The wind is coming! The wind is changing! The wind is coming to me!
And the Frenchman predicting that things are going his way, Joe.
My goodness!
Yeah, he's happy with himself at the moment.
Let's catch up with Jamie and see what she's up to.
Beautiful Yarra, which is normally a quiet and peaceful place, but for the last 3 weeks in January, as you can see, this place really comes alive for the Royal Croquet Club. There's DJs, there's food, there's drinks, of course there's croquet. Let's go check it out. This is a very, very cute donkey. What's its name? This is Casper. Oh, hi, Casper. Starting this year, the Royal Croquet Club is a pop-up festival giving you a brand new way to experience food, drink and music in the city. With its origins dating back to the 14th century, croquet is a game where you use a mallet to knock one of your 2 balls through several hoops, eventually finishing at the final peg to win the game, and it's much harder than it looks. As you can see, the sun is setting behind me on this beautiful place and the crowds are flocking in to come and try some of the amazing food that's on offer here. There's Miss Chu's, Meat Mother and Messina, just to name a few. It smells amazing. I'm going to go and try some. You'll you'll want to arrive with an empty stomach, as some of Melbourne's best restaurants are represented. Thank you very much. All right, I better go find the crew. And if you want to burn off some of those calories, you can get your groove on under the stars and city lights as a lineup of exciting bands and internationally renowned DJs spin you tunes to get you moving. What an absolutely fabulous night here at the Royal Croquet Club. When you're in town for the Aussie Millions, this event is one that you cannot miss.
Welcome back to the 2015 Aussie Millions main event, right here at the home of poker in Australia, Crown Melbourne. There is the leaderboard. Lennart Uphoff from Germany leads the way. Joel Dwalen from France, he's not too close, is he? He's got 3.4 million. James Rahn now, who began our final table as the chip leader, is our short stack with just a little over 2 million in chips, but anything can happen. It has certainly been a turbulent ride for the Frenchman. There is Brian Rast in shot, who's also been on a little bit of a ride himself.
He has. He's crept up a little bit now. He's got some chips, and he'll use them appropriately.
Raises to 275.
He's going to open the action for 275,000 with Queen 10 offsuit. Round to the Frenchman, who now is starting to build a stack that's looking more like the one on his left in Lennart Uphoff's hands.
I'm really trying to work this guy out. I haven't yet. He's quite funny. I know, it's obvious that he doesn't have that much experience. You can see that.
Which is probably his biggest advantage, right? The players don't know him and they don't know what he's doing. There is definitely method to what he's doing.
Do you know the old saying, when you've got nothing to lose, you've got nothing to lose? And it makes you so much more fearsome, you know? And I think it's working to his advantage at the moment.
And he's going to make the call. He seems like he is not easily intimidated. He's got pocket twos. Folds around to Manny Stavropoulos, who's also been quietly chipping away, his stack growing. He gets out of the way, been very patient. James Rahn will get out of the way. So 2 to the flop. Rast and Dwaglen.
His heads up.
The blinds fold and it's heads up between Joel and Brian.
Rast with the aggression pre-flop. Perhaps to continue that aggression with top pair here. Flop Queen 4-5, and Dwaglen with pocket twos is well behind.
I would expect Brian to continue betting here on this flop. He's hit top pair. Well, he's proven me wrong. He's checked straight away.
Perhaps he's a little bit shaken by the Frenchman as well.
Or maybe he's inducing a bluff. You know, like he's there. He can read the guy better than what I can from his play with him.
Well, he has induced a bet indeed. 375,000 from the Frenchman, and Rast now announces all in. So a check raise.
Moves all in.
1.355.
Back over to the Frenchman. Perhaps he could read him for a flush draw and maybe make a loose call here, Joe.
Yeah, but he's not in good shape against any hand, so I can't see how possibly in any way that he can make this call.
He's thinking his way through it, looking at that board.
He's got the mighty 2 of diamonds, which means absolutely nothing.
And he does fold. So, well, Brian Rast there really showing how to extract the most value out of a hand by check raising.
He's going for the maximum, yeah. He was going for the maximum. He's saying to himself, you know what, I want to get it all in here. This guy plays pretty aggressively. I'll check it to him, let him stick his nose in, and I've got top pair. I'm not really worried about his hand, and if he's got me beat, he's got me beat.
That's exactly what he did. Some creative play here at the final table of the Aussie Millions. Lennart Uphoff, our big stack, folds round to Manny Stavropoulos. Been patient, continues to be patient, folds around to Brian Rast.
You guys haven't had a blind on blind battle.
He's in the small blind now. These situations always tricky to read, Joe, small blind, big blind.
Absolutely, because the big blind automatically has position, right? The small blind doesn't want to give up his half big blind. He wants to try and defend it and win the pot. So Brian's raising, coming in. And he knows that Dwaglen hates folding, so he's expecting action.
Rast raises to 260,000. Over to the Frenchman now. What will he do next?
Well, he's got me sitting on the edge of the couch, mate. Let me tell you.
Well, the sunnies are down, so that must be a read. Will he call? Will he raise?
I call.
He calls. So we're going to see a flop. Queen Jack offsuit. Not a bad hand in the big blind, and he's concealed it by calling, right?
I think it's a great calling hand, Jack Queen there. Just, you know, you've got position, use it to your advantage. And you've got a very good hand. I like the fact that he calls his actions. For those players who aren't experienced, if you call your action, you can't get into trouble. You know, some people, they don't do it and they mistakenly raise or mistakenly underbet.
Well, Dwaglen has struck top pair here on a Queen 3 deuce board with 2 clubs. Rast out of position. It looks like he's going to fire first because he was the initial raiser pre-flop. Continues the aggression. How much?
310.
310, exactly half the pot. And the Frenchman wastes no time, just says, I'm all in. And Rast folds. So, well, these two, that's a bit of a round 2 for these two. So Rast and Dwaglen really tussling. Be very interesting to see how this subplot finishes.
Some guys you watch on TV, you know. But, you know, that doesn't impress me because the cards are the cards. They got a good read. I respect that very much. They got very good read. They're not easy to bluff. They got a lot of training, you know, for staying 12 hours. For them, it's peanuts. I can feel it. Me, I've got to stand. I've got to stretch my legs because I don't know if it's the age or... But I can't be sitting like that without moving.
Welcome back to the 2015 Aussie Millions main event coverage here at Crown Melbourne. 5 players remain in this enormous tournament. The biggest title in the Southern Hemisphere is the Aussie Millions main event. Lennart Uphoff, the German, is in a commanding lead, but the Frenchman now, Joel Dwaglen, who's probably been on the biggest roller coaster and he's one of the most unique characters to the game for some time, is starting to claw his way into this. Manny Stavropoulos, the final Aussie at this final table, is really hoping to make a dent, and he's been very patient, and he continues to be patient. I've got to hand it to him. I sit next to a man who showed a great amount of patience once upon a time in the 2005 World Series of Poker main event, the biggest tournament in the world, Joe Hasham. You know, people ask all the time about the different characteristics it takes to be a successful poker player. You were incredibly patient in that main event. Is it still the number one thing?
I think patience is incredibly important, especially in big main events where you need to wait your time. And big events like this, like the Aussie Millions, give you the time to wait, to pick your spots. I think that's exactly what Manny's doing right now. He's saying to himself, look, you know, I don't need to tangle. I've got plenty of chips. I want to wait for my time, wait for my rush, and take advantage when it comes.
Rast raising with King 10 of spades, and it is around to the German, Lennart Uphoff. It looks like he's interested. And the patience, Joe, getting back to that, is because the better tournaments have the best structures, right?
Absolutely. As opposed to having, say, for example, your blinds going up every 20 minutes. In the Aussie Millions, they're going up every 90 minutes. That gives you a lot of time to wait, to check your opponents out, to, you know, work out what your next play is going to be, rather than having to be under pressure to make a move right then and there.
And look at this. Lennart Uphoff has just smooth called out of the big blind, but he has aces, so choosing to conceal them here.
Wow, that's a very nice play because he's hoping Brian hits some of that flop.
Well, he has. He's flopped 2 overs and a draw. Well, in his hands anyway. Uphoff quickly checks. The action is over to Rast.
This is kind of one of the best flops for Brian to hit. Had he hit just a king, he's almost drawing dead to another king or a 10, right? He's hit 2 spades, so he's got 9 clean outs now that he can win the pot. And he doesn't know this, but Uphoff doesn't have the ace of spades, so if Brian does make a flush, he's going to win the hand. But he still has to get there.
Well, he bets a little under 300,000 into the German now. When will he release the trap?
I would almost guarantee that Uphoff will be raising on this flop, 100%. I'll almost swallow this mic if he doesn't lose.
Over to the German, who has amassed some kind of chip lead. And look at this.
Oh, my God. I'm going to eat the mic. Excuse me.
Unbelievable. He just calls the turn another deuce, a deuce of hearts this time. What will happen next, Joe?
Okay, if I call this wrong, I'm leaving. It's going to go check, all in, call.
Okay. The action is now on Rust. He's looking at his chips. $1.23 million in the middle. A flush draw, and he announces all in.
I'm half right.
And no, you're not half right. You're
right.
100%
right. Finally, I got it right.
Unbelievable. So Brian Rust getting trapped by the German. Really, that was it was a sensational
100%.
trap, and he's flopped a draw. He still has outs to win.
Yeah.
But he is an underdog here and could be eliminated. He could be our next elimination, and the other players must be, well, secretly hoping 100%. That he eliminates Brian Rust. And look at that, the river is a four of hearts. We will lose one of the most feared players in poker today, Brian Rust from the United States of America.
He'll be very disappointed, you know, but the cards kind of played themselves. He didn't do anything wrong. Played great, and the other guy played the hand really great too.
You know, I was pretty much ready to play for all my chips. I bet just under 300. Was going to call, and then he just called, which was a really strange play. It made me think like maybe he had like a weak ace high and was just kind of like, you know, calling once to freeze me and hoping for a check down. So when the turn came a deuce, I decided to go ahead and semi-bluff. I couldn't really see how king high was the best hand, and you know, I have a flush draw if I get called. So I went for it, and you know, he had aces, so he was kind of slow playing. And I mean, people were playing pretty solid. I didn't think, other than Joel, like there wasn't that much wild play. People were kind of trying to be careful, try not to make mistakes, and you know, I think people played pretty well. You know, it wasn't easy, and you know, I did my best, but I guess it just didn't work out.
And there is the leaderboard. Lennart Uphoff from Germany, sitting now close to 10.5 million in chips. He is miles ahead of three other players, but we're only 3 eliminations away from crowning a champion in the 2015 Aussie Millions main event. There is still one Australian at the table, 1 Frenchman, 1 Englishman, and 1 German. Who will win the title, the LK Boutique bracelet, and that whopping first prize of $1.6 million? For Jamie Rogers, Joe Hasham, I'm Paul Curry. We'll see you next time at the Aussie Millions.